Before we begin, take a breath and step with me into an age where kings were born of prophecy, and destiny was carved by the edge of a blade. Welcome to Echoes of the Past with Peter. Here, we awaken history, not from the silence of books, but from the heartbeat of men who dared to defy the impossible. If you believe the past still speaks, that within every echo lies a lesson, a warning, and a spark of immortality, then make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Because tonight, we relive the rise of a conqueror. A man who sought eternity and found only ashes. This is the story of Alexander the Great, the rise of a god and the fall of a man. In the dust of ancient Macedonia, under a sky streaked with omens, a child was born who would one day claim the world. He was not born into peace, but into prophecy. From the moment Alexander opened his eyes, seers whispered that he would surpass his father, King Philip of Macedon, and outshine every warrior before him. But destiny, as it often does, demanded a price. As a boy, Alexander burned with questions. He would gaze into the night sky, wondering if the stars were gods, or just unreachable fires in the dark. He was restless, a spirit too fierce for the cage of royalty. Under the watchful eye of his tutor Aristotle, he learned that the world was vast, that beyond the mountains of Macedon lay kingdoms, cities, and empires, waiting to bow. But knowledge only deepened his hunger. He didn't just want to learn the world, he wanted to own it. When he was still a boy, destiny tested him. A wild stallion, untamed and feared by all, was brought before the court. Men struggled, but the horse threw them aside like dust. While others mocked, Alexander saw fear in the creature's eyes, fear of its own shadow. He turned the horse toward the sun, so it could no longer see what frightened it, and wrote it into legend. He named it Bucephalus, ox-headed. And together, they would carve their names across continents. But shadows waited, even in his father's halls. King Philip, conqueror, visionary, and tyrant, saw in his son both pride and a rival. Their bond was built on admiration and broken by ambition. Philip forged an empire with blood and steel, but Alexander dreamed of something greater. Where his father sought dominion, Alexander sought divinity. Then came the night that changed everything. A banquet, a blade in the dark, and the king fell. Who ordered it? History still whispers. But the next morning, a 20-year-old Alexander stood before a trembling kingdom, a crown on his brow and fire in his eyes. He silenced rebellion with iron, and then turned his gaze east, toward Persia, toward immortality. What followed was a march that defied logic and reason. From the cliffs of Anatolia to the sands of Syria, his army thundered across the world like a living storm. At the Battle of Issus, outnumbered and outmatched, Alexander faced Darius III, the king of Persia. But when dust met blood, it was Darius who fled, and Alexander who claimed the world's awe. He pursued the Persian king across deserts and mountains, through cities that burned in his wake. 7 months he laid siege to Tyre, and when its walls finally fell, his wrath was myth. No god could have been more merciless. He crossed into Egypt, where priests bowed and declared him the son of Zeus Ammon, a god reborn in mortal flesh. And in the solitude of the desert, he began to believe it. He founded Alexandria, a city meant to outlive empires. And at the oracle of Siwa, he asked the question that had haunted him since his first breath: am I the son of a man or of a god? The oracle's reply is lost to time. But from that day, Alexander no longer spoke as a man. He commanded as one beyond it. Victory followed him like a shadow, but so did arrogance. He began to see himself in the company of Achilles, of Heracles, of those who defied mortality itself. Yet each triumph demanded sacrifice. His dearest friend Hephaestion, his brothers in arms, fell one by one to battle and time. And when his friend Clytus, the man who once saved his life, dared to remind him of his humanity, Alexander, in a drunken fury, struck him down. The silence that followed was heavier than any crown. He looked into his reflection and saw not a king, but a god haunted by ghosts. Still, he marched eastward, into India, into the monsoon rains and the jungles that swallowed armies whole. At the Battle of the Hydaspes, he faced King Porus, a warrior who fought with elephants and pride. The river ran red with courage that day. Alexander won, but victory felt hollow. His men, weary and broken, refused to march further. For the first time, the god king faced defiance. And in that moment, he wept, not for defeat, but because there were no more worlds left to conquer. He turned back west. His empire stretched from Greece to India, too vast for any mortal to hold. And in Babylon, beneath a sun that refused to set, the conqueror of the world fell ill. Some say it was poison. Others say it was destiny collecting its debt. As he lay dying, his breath shallow and his eyes clouded, his generals asked, "To whom shall the empire fall?" And with a fading smile, he whispered, "To the strongest." The world shattered in the wake of those words. His generals tore his empire apart like wolves over a divine carcass. Cities burned again, this time not for conquest, but for power. And yet, through the ruin and betrayal, Alexander's name endured. For he had not merely conquered nations, he had conquered time. His legend outlived his empire. His vision outlasted his breath. And his shadow still moves across maps and minds today. They called him the Great. But greatness, it seems, is both a crown and a curse. For in the end, Alexander was not destroyed by an empire, nor by an enemy, but by the fire within his own heart. And so his legend reminds us, even gods can bleed. And even the greatest conqueror must one day bow, not to kings, but to time itself. For when the dust settles, when empires fade, only one thing remains, the echo of his name, carried forever by history. And so, the legend of Alexander ends not with a crown, but with silence. A silence heavy with the weight of his dream. A dream too vast for a single lifetime. He conquered nations, but could not conquer time. He sought divinity, but lost his soul in the pursuit. Yet still, his name endures, whispered by history, etched into stone, and carried by the winds of every battlefield since. What did this story awaken in you? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if the echoes of Alexander's journey stirred something within you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Echoes of the Past with Peter, for more timeless stories that burn with the fire of history itself. Until next time, remember, legends never truly die. They only fade into echoes.